Well, today we have Pete Larkin in the house. We're excited to talk to you today. Pete, you're a father of four. You're like outdoor adventure guy, from what I can tell, and you're the co-founder at Parlay, and you're also the chapter president for the marketing chapter of Silken Slopes. Did I get all that right?
That's right. You know, I think that was a perfect order too.
Oh,
Order
good.
of priority right there.
Good.
Yeah.
I tried. Like I'm also a father, so like I'm, my daughters come first for sure. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you have going on right now.
Yeah, what I'm doing right now, the main gig is aside being a father and a husband, working on Parlay, building out this new company, which is in short the buy now, pay later for the B2B SaaS world. Working on building a community of marketers here in Utah with the Silken Slopes. I head up the marketing chapter and doing a lot of fun, cool stuff there. And just enjoying life, man. Just trying to live every day, one day at a time, and just make the most of it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And like, what got you into marketing? Did you go to school for it? What kind of started you on this path that you're on now?
Failure.
Okay. Okay, I love it.
Failure is what got me here. So I started out in the film world.
Okay.
I was working at BYU Independent Study when I was in college.
Are you a BYU fan?
BYU fan, BYU grad.
There you go.
Yeah.
Currently
Nice.
doing an executive MBA at BYU right
Awesome.
Wait, how do you get away with the scruff?
now. So class is every 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
So this is like yesterday.
Well,
Yeah.
I know
Oh, nice.
you used to. I've seen pictures of you. You used to have a pretty significant beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
For those that are unaware, you can't have a beard if you go to BYU, right?
right.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
unless you have a beard card,
Right.
which is a real thing.
It is a real thing. Or you can have a mustache, which boggles my mind. Can look like
Just
a creeper.
one of those. Yeah, one of those antiquated rules at BYU.
I mean, I'm a mustache fan, but I
Yeah.
do miss my beard. I have shaver's remorse
Yeah.
pretty much every day.
I'm
Nice.
sure.
So you're getting a master's currently
Yeah.
from BYU.
Yep.
In what again?
Business.
It's just an MBA,
executive,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is great. Really enjoying that. But yeah, so I was at BYU Independent Study, and I was working on their film team, their video production team, and we created all of the content for their courses. And I started getting freelance work and building a reputation in the video world.
Yeah.
This is early on when DSLRs just started kind of coming out.
Yeah.
So I snagged one of those and just started doing a lot of freelance video work, and really quickly, surprisingly fast. And back then we didn't call it content marketing because that wasn't a thing.
Wasn't
yet.
a thing yet. Yeah.
And so we were doing a lot of video content marketing for different companies. I say we because the freelance work just was booming, and so I hired a couple of my coworkers. I left independent study to go full time. Started a video production company, and I called it Animotion Media.
Okay.
I don't know, man.
Animotion media.
Animotion.
Wait, why
I
did you
like
call it that?
So I did some
I mean, there's
After
plenty.
Effects work.
There's plenty worse business names than that, but
Still-
You don't want to know what we
still.
were originally called.
Yeah. So I was doing some After Effects kind of animations. and
okay.
stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
That was part of it, and then a lot of live action stuff. So it was growing quick, and so I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna go to film school.
Okay.
So I did the intro classes to film at BYU, and then you have to apply. And my business, Animotion, it was going great.
Yeah.
And especially for like college job, like just crushing it, getting through school, which was fantastic. And I applied to film school, to the actual program, and got denied, got rejected. And I was a little frustrated. And to be honest, I was a little surprised because I was like, I'm already
Like I have a
I'm
good
already doing
portfolio.
this.
Yeah.
Got
So-
rejected even though you had a successful business that you were running.
which felt weird. And so I just wanted a little bit of feedback. So I went to one of the professors who makes those decisions and on who gets into the program. And I said, hey, can I just like figure out where did I go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And I got some tough feedback, but good feedback, which he pretty much said like, hey, what you're doing now with your business is what most of our grads do after they finish the program. So you can stay in our program and, you can get the piece of paper, or you can go do a different program, which we recommend and we want you to do, and expand your learning, your education. And at the time it was hard because I was like, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I want to learn
How
more
about
about
I
yeah.
tell you what I want to
Yeah,
study,
for sure.
and I'll pay for it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, that rejection, like it felt weird and I was frustrated about it. But then he pushed me over into the BYU ad school, told me to go check it out. So I went and checked out the ad program. I applied there, I got in, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it. So I was still doing my my production company, going to school, doing in the ad program. And one of my clients, as I was about to graduate, pretty much said, hey, I want you to come work with me full time. And I had a pretty cool job offer in Chicago to work for a big ad agency. And this is like, okay, stay in Utah
Yeah.
or go to Chicago and do this big ad agency. And to me, it was like going to Chicago.
Yeah.
But he, came back to me and said, I'm going to make it worth your time. He said, I'm not going to be able to pay you as much as the ad agency will, but your quality of life and just kind of what you value, I think you'll find better balance here, maybe better harmony. And then he said, I'm going to spend time with you, dedicate time to mentorship and teaching. And I knew he was, genuine about it, and I really liked him. So you may know him. He's the CEO of Bacon, Hunter Sabresos.
Okay.
And so I jumped in with him, and this was working at Deseret Book.
Okay.
So it's a pretty big, like if you know
Yeah.
Deseret Book, like very churchy, religious-focused publishing company.
Yeah.
Versus going to Chicago at an ad agency.
Yeah,
Right?
it's like
It's
it's
very different.
Yeah, it's pretty much the exact two opposites of
Yeah,
what you probably
pretty
could do.
And what were
So-
you doing for Deseret Book?
Just
Same
the
stuff.
video content.
Yeah.
Video content.
So went to work with Hunter over there, and just like he said, he was true to his word. He spent probably an hour almost daily with me, just teaching me, would bring me into his office, mentoring me, and I learned a lot there and had a great time. He's an incredible professional, great friend, really good at what he does. He was the creative director over there. So enjoyed my time over there. And then, and so it's still pretty heavy in
Yeah.
video focus and kind of creative side of things. And then after about 11 months, Deseret Book was going through some challenges, and there was a pretty significant layoff. I want to say it was 20, maybe 30% workforce reduction in force. And so pretty much the entire creative services department
Just
was
gone.
like gone.
Yeah.
And I'm 11 months in, and I'm thinking in my head, man, like I just let go of this
I
opportunity.
just gave up Chicago to come do
come
this.
here, and this is happening. So I'm like looking at my life, and I'm like, dang, like failure again. Like I didn't get
Yeah.
into film school, which I wanted to do, and
Right.
at the time that really felt like a failure.
Yeah.
And then here I am being laid off, feeling like a failure, and I stepped back and I looked at who are all the people that stayed, who are the people that didn't get laid off. And what is it about them versus me on why I did get laid off? They didn't. And it wasn't so much about a comparison of like, person to person, but specifically role. What was my role in the company? And what was the value that I was providing to the company versus these other people? And I realized that pretty much the entire marketing team outside of creative services stayed. And these were the people who were having direct impact on revenue. And so that was like a click moment for me, that if I want to protect myself from, layoffs and try to become more valuable to the company, that I need to be able to show my impact and, have much more influence on revenue. And so I started to make a shift. And pretty much that day when I made that realization, I said, okay, I need to go marketing route, and I need to focus on driving revenue. So here I am, no job. I've got a house being built. I've got
Stressful, man.
a kid on the way. I've got a wife who is just finishing school and who is, she's not working because she's prepping for this baby. So sole provider and just like very stressful.
Oh yeah.
Super stressful.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And so I just went on this immediate like self-education. This was back in the day of lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
So Linda and I hung out a lot. And I just, read every book that I could find on marketing. And I watched all these different courses and just went to town on self-education in marketing. Which there's a lot of overlap in that you learn in ad school.
Yeah.
And so I had some good foundation, and it was a natural shift for me. But I don't know how, man, but I'd somehow convinced Fieldstone Homes, who was building my house.
Yeah.
I was talking with our sales agent about their company, and she was telling me how they don't really have a marketing program. They have people performing marketing functions, but they're not marketers.
Yeah.
And so I went in there, talked to the president of the company and convinced him to hire me on to come be their marketing manager.
That's awesome, man.
Zero marketing experience aside from like the natural crossovers. And then it really it got real.
Yeah.
Where all my the marketing lessons and videos and stuff it was all helpful, but it was more like theoretical, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so now it was time
put it to the test.
to put it to the test.
Can you give some insight into, you were doing video and creative? What kind of video were you making early on? And then also the ad school, you were learning like paid ads channels. Is that what you were learning?
No, it's more of just like complete end-to-end
Advertising.
Yeah, advertising, ad campaigns, kind of the ideation and execution of like commercials, radio scripts, videos that and so on.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
print and
there wasn't much focus in the ad program. There still isn't. This is not really the core competency.
Yeah.
Because there's like marketing focus at BYU or in school.
Mm-hmm.
In college, and there's like journalism, and then there's ad
advertising.
school. So it was just a very focused effort on advertising, and for me it was much more on the creative side.
Okay.
So you had asked what type of stuff I was working on. So and especially in my company, the content that at Animotion that we would create was pretty much, and this was also when YouTube was really like starting.
Off,
So we were creating YouTube videos for websites, marketing material. But it was a lot of fun and was really enjoying that. I don't know if I answered.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Was it called the BYU Ad Lab when you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then you moved into this role with Fieldstone, and when you were reading marketing books, mostly because a lot of the people who listen to this, right, there's the generic terms of marketing and the generic terms of advertising, where we would talk about advertising as like, hey, it's what we do on paid ad channels because we run ads on Google and Facebook and YouTube and places like that, where then there's marketing, which is different from advertising. And I know that that's kind of what you're getting into. I just wanted to maybe like separate those so that people could understand that they are very different. And I would love to get more insight as you talk about Fieldstone of like, what was the difference between advertising and marketing once you got to Fieldstone and things got real?
Yeah. So, coming out of ad school, and really what we focused on there is like creating a creative brief, taking research and information that we have on your personas and customers, and building out these creative campaigns and really what the plan is going to be. There wasn't much programmatic advertising with any type of paid ads. That really wasn't part of what we did. It was much more on the creative end, writing scripts, the ideation for the campaigns, really trying to make sure that we're getting to the heart of the consumer.
And a lot of this was for TV pre-roll online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so coming into Fieldstone, I had very little of the analytical side of marketing.
Yeah. You had a bunch of your theory down and a lot of like execution down and stuff.
Yeah.
But
and creative side, right?
Yeah.
But that one of those realizations when the kind of switch flipped in my head about me needing to move from the creative side into more marketing and revenue focus was that, and I'm probably going to take some heat from my ad friends, but
nice.
When you think about who hires advertisers, right? It's the marketers, right? The marketing budget is what dictates advertising.
Yeah.
And so, I went to ad school, but pretty much everyone coming out of ad school is at the mercy of the marketers, right? They're the ones, all of these ad agencies that are being hired by marketers and controlled by marketing budget. And so to me, that was another thing that I realized that, hey, if I want to kind of go a little bit higher up this chain, I need to be focusing more on the marketing side. And so started really putting those theories and principles to the test, and just getting my hands dirty into everything, into search engine optimization, into building websites and WordPress. Man, like I just went to town on WordPress. And
PTSD.
PTSD. It's funny because I look back at it now, and it's those things where like you're building out a site and you're just struggling with something, and you find that one button in this obscure place, and it's like that took me 4 hours to figure out this one little thing that took, once you find the button, when you know where it is, it's like seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, so frustrating. So that's the PTSD.
And then the boss walks over, he's like, why'd that take you so long?
Yeah. And you're like, oh.
It's like, don't you dare ask me that question.
If you only knew. And I look back
gosh.
now, I mean, like I can build websites now, super, super fast. But yeah, and then into programmatic advertising and every aspect of marketing.
Email marketing,
social. And this is also when social and Facebook businesses at this time were like, should we be on Facebook?
Yeah, it was this was like what, early 2010s?
Yeah, this would have been 2012.
Yeah, it was like the heyday of like when Facebook started to really pop off. Yeah.
When you were at Fieldstone, do you feel like you set up a really clear plan for marketing? Like, hey, we're going to develop content. This content's going to be segregated into email, into advertising on Facebook. We're going to run programmatic. Or do you feel like it was more like, hey, we also want to be pre-roll on YouTube. Hey, we also want to be on KSL. Hey, we also want to be on Facebook. And do we do email marketing, Pete? Can you help us with that? What was it like?
It was all of those things, like everything being placed on my shoulders, which
all at once
immediately
it's pretty overwhelming.
Felt so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm trying to convince them that I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
And at the same time, like trying to convince myself that I'm like capable of this.
Yeah.
Well, I get Fieldstone emails every week pretty much because I almost built a home with them. Yeah. So maybe you started the whole program.
Maybe. I mean, there really was no
nothing
marketing
before you came in.
And so one of the things, and I always do this time I go into any type of new industry, working with a new client, new space, is just research. So I went to town just trying to understand what our biggest competitors were doing, what were they doing to be successful, interviewing people in the space, interviewing everyone in my company, and just trying to figure out like how can I really get started well here. And I got a lot of really bad advice, which I thought was like going to be great advice.
Design by committee equals chaos.
Yeah, and just people who they
Everyone's got their own opinions.
Everyone's
on
got
it.
their own opinions, and a lot of people think that they can be good marketers too.
Yeah.
And so some people were like, "Oh, it's SEO. You got to focus on SEO here," and some were like, "Oh, like you should really jump into social," and some were like, "Oh, it's about billboards and out of home," and so I created this plan, put it all together, and I look back at that plan and I just look and I'm just like, "That's cute." That's like definitely
You got to post that plan on LinkedIn.
yeah. Definitely inexperience. Looking back at it, nevertheless, I think what made up for my lack in experience was just determination and hard work. Putting in a lot of hours, a lot of time.
And curiosity, it seems like too.
Yeah.
You asked
like
a lot
you
of
were
questions.
willing to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it definitely shows. I feel like you're probably a marketer at heart, especially with all of your, like, not a lot of people think to just immediately go and like talk to every single person in their company and like do all of that research. Not a lot of people make the choice to do that. And it's so important to understand like what's going on and just more or less become that, information center almost.
Yeah.
and then with that, then take that and make educated decisions about what to do next.
Yeah. I
Not
think
a lot of people choose to do that.
you can't be in marketing. You have to observe the world in order to understand it so that you can then go and market to them. Right. So if you're bad at observing the world, you're not going to be good at marketing. So the curiosity is one of the best attributes of a good marketer because you can go and observe the world. You were a customer of Fieldstone, so you could observe that whole process, which in turn was probably really helpful, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the question you had asked was, how'd you find your way to marketing? It's a long way to get there.
That's okay.
And I said
But we're getting
failure, right?
Yeah.
And it really was like failed to get into the film school, and then felt like a major failure when I was laid off, which pushed me into the marketing world. And I look back at those failures and I am just so grateful for those. Because I found that marketing really has just been my jam, and it's been a really natural good fit. Because while I had the creative side where there was a lot more focus in my early career, I really enjoy and love the analytical part of marketing and the data and the science, and so I'm really landed where I feel like I should be. And being a religious person, I feel like it was a nudge in the right direction. Where I think a lot of times we see our failures and especially in the moment of failure, man, it's so hard to see how
a way out.
Yeah, a way out, and just like where it might be guiding you, where am I leading you? But I'm just so grateful for those failures and where it's brought me.
Well, I feel like it's like sometimes it does take the lowest of the low, to be able to change your perspective or whatever needs to happen. And sometimes maybe I don't feel like it's ever deserved to be at the lowest of the lows. Yeah. But I think it's a place that if you have the right attitude, like you can do anything and get yourself out of that. And you did just that. And so after Fieldstone, where did you go next? I know you have some history with LDSBC Ensign College. You have some history with, is it Angle Point? Yeah. And, and then Parlay. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah. I love that you ask it if it's Angle Point, because a lot of our own customers would call us Angel Point.
Interesting.
And I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. But it is Angle Point?
Angle Point. Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah, L-E, not E-L.
Yeah. Right. It's funny, but that itself led to, even though we kept the name, it led to a significant rebrand.
Interesting.
Which was really successful for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So after Fieldstone, I got into agency world. I was working with a agency called Post Primer. Did that for a minute and realized that agency, no offense to you guys, like work with agencies.
No offense taken.
Yeah, I promise no offense taken.
I've done like stuff off and on with agencies for most of my career.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like great opportunities there. I also think that you have to have like a appetite for
Yes.
it, and a personality for it, because it's a different brand side. You get to focus, hyper focus, and you get to be completely dedicated to one specific brand and know everything about that brand intimately.
Yeah, when you're
The
in-house.
customers, the industry, everything when you're in-house. When you're brand side, you have to kind of divide that focus amongst multiple.
Or when you're agency side.
Sorry,
Is that
excuse
what
me.
you
Yeah, when you're agency side, maybe we kind of
Yeah.
that. When you're agency side, you kind of have to divide that to a certain degree, or at least be hyper focused in kind of segments or while you're working on that particular brand. And some people are so good at that. You guys are good at that. I am not good at that. And I need to just like focus in and get really deep on a particular brand. So I decided to kind of move out of the agency space. A good friend of mine invited me to come work with him over at a company called Omadi, which is pretty much, it's in the SaaS space, specifically targeted in the towing industry of all industries. And
some of those guys make a killing off of their fees. So,
oh man, like we could get into some horror stories I have. From
What's a worse business, an agency or a towing?
or a towing company.
Quote of the day. And then I found myself at Angle Point. And Angle Point, I was there for about 6 years, and it was an incredible run. I had so much fun. And
You held a lot of different roles there.
yeah, I'm all specific to marketing, but climb the ladder.
Yeah.
But when I started, it's easy to climb a ladder when there's no one above you. In the
Quote of
sense,
the day.
in the sense that there were no other marketers at Angle Point. I was similar to Fieldstone, where I'm jumping in and kind of one-man band. I'm the only marketer. Built out the marketing team. The first year we did $600,000 in marketing sourced revenue. And then after that, by the time we left, we were in the tens of millions.
Wow.
So it was a fantastic run.
Yeah.
And really helped that company scale and grow. But I was telling you, people Angle Point, and that led to some deep reflection about how to build reputation, how to build thought leadership, especially in a space in which you're not a thought leader yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of times marketers, they're required to build brand and build reputation and thought leadership in a space that they're not the pro in.
Yeah.
They're not the expert in. So it's my opinion that sometimes the best approach is finding people who don't come from a specific industry, but can have real journalistic capabilities and be talented marketers, because they don't have any type of maybe skewed or
Have fresh eyes.
Yeah, fresh eyes, fresh look at it. And that was definitely my case when going into Angle Point. It was in the world of software asset management.
Which sounds so boring.
It was like, I'm glad you said that, because I felt the same thing.
Right.
I learned, like, it was a really great offer, and I wanted to take it. I felt like it was going to be a stepping stone job, but man, it sounded boring.
Yeah.
So SAM and ITAM, IT asset management, I didn't even know this industry existed.
Yeah, you were like, what the heck is this?
What is this thing?
Yeah.
And so I had that task, like, how do I build the brand here for a company whose customers are getting their name wrong, and in an industry that I don't even know what the heck it is.
And probably super technical.
So technical. And there are a lot of technical industries where if in your marketing you're saying things and communicating things, even like the use of wrong words.
Yes.
Even like you could have a 1,000-page article, and in that 1,000-page,
1,000 word.
word
1,000
article,
page.
1,000 page. This is
like
an article.
we're
This is a book?
Harry Potter.
Corporate attorney.
Yeah, serious. So you can have this, 1,000 word article, and you can get 3 or 4 words wrong, and
And it'll be a
immediately,
huge turnoff.
Yeah, you can destroy the credibility of that article, and potentially of your company.
Yeah.
And so you have to be really careful. And one of the reasons we didn't outsource our content development, our content creation, SEO, blogs, whatever. And so really quickly, I found that I have to rely heavily on our subject matter experts, our SMEs. So your subject matter experts, these are the people who are probably most apt for the content development itself. Not to say that they're good writers, not to say that they're good storytellers, but they have the expertise, and they are the people that you need to extract the information out of them.
Yeah.
But they're also the same people who have the least amount of time to create the content.
Yeah.
Right. So 1, they may be terrible writers, and 2, they don't have the time. And
But
so
they know what they're talking
they
about.
absolutely know
Oh,
what
yeah.
they're talking about.
Yeah.
So then that's where the journalism comes in. That's where marketing comes in, is how do I take what their knowledge, their expertise, and extract it and communicate it in a way that doesn't make the company look bad, but on the contrary, builds thought leadership and builds credibility. And so that's really the challenge that we had at Angle Point. And we developed a kind of process and system to help us do that. And it started working really, really well. And we were leveraging our subject matter experts and building their LinkedIn profiles and getting them opportunities to speak at conferences. And while we're working on building our own credibility from our own subject matter experts in the content we were creating, I knew that we were going to need to scale that in size, quantity, but also speed. We're going to need to speed this up.
Yeah.
And so I started looking outside of our company to what other organizations in our space, what other companies have a lot of credibility and trust that we can leverage to build our own audience and to build our own thought leadership. And I realized that one of those was Gartner. If you're familiar with Gartner, they are, for whatever reason, there are so many executive levels, C-level leaders who pay so much attention to what Gartner's saying, almost religiously so, that like they're kind of the end all be all. What they're saying is like truth.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to leverage what Gartner's saying in order to drive attention and trust to what we were doing. So to keep it short, we kind of hatched a plan on how we can market to the Gartner analysts and get them to start sending us referrals. So we're coming from a place where people are like, who's Angel Point? Not the right name.
Yeah.
To then a few years later being named as the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Also, if you're familiar with Gartner's Magic Quadrants, you're not allowed to say leader. You have to say the highest and furthest to the right is like their technical, like you get slammed on it if you say leader. Anyway, it is Gartner's pay to play.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, you kind of have to figure out and learn how to play.
Yeah.
Aside from just paying, but we found a great way, and I wish we had time to like jump deep into that because to me it's fascinating. But essentially, we started seeing millions of dollars in referrals coming from Gartner and from the Gartner Magic Quadrant being such a massive credibility boost
To your company.
Yeah.
You probably made a lot of introductions that there's no way you could have probably gotten them without the association.
Yeah, I mean, immediately being the leader in the magic quadrant. Like
Highest and to the right.
Highest and to the right. It opens a lot of doors. And now people in our industry, it wasn't who's Angel Point. It's like you can't not know who Angle Point is. In our particular space, right? So we're working with some of the largest companies in the world, Fortune 500, and so, and it was just a fantastic experience. But while I was there, we were trying to acquire on the marketing side or procure, not acquire. We were trying to procure Marketo. This was before Adobe's acquisition of Marketo. So we're trying to buy their software. And it was, for us, it was going to be, I think it was around 50 grand. And it was all annual contracts only, some money up front. And we didn't have the cash flow at that point to be able to make that purchase. So I tried to negotiate monthly payments, which we could afford. And they said, no, it's not going to happen.
Not how we do it.
It's not how we do it.
It's not how a lot of software companies do it.
Right. I didn't know that at the time.
We learned that. We've even learned that where it's like, wait, I can't pay monthly?
Yeah. And you're sitting here and you're like, just take my money, man.
Yeah.
It's like, why does it matter? Like if I'm paying monthly or paying annual? Now, deep into what I'm doing at Parlay, like I get it. I understand it. But at that time, like I was frustrated, and because of that experience, I couldn't negotiate into monthly payments. I could barely even get into quarterly. But my CEO, he was like, hey, sorry, like that's not going to fly. We're not going to be able to do that all in one purchase. So we got pushed into a competitor. This was with Click Dimensions. So in Click Dimensions, it wasn't the best software. We weren't particularly excited to use it, but it was the best alternative. And so here we have a situation where there's money on the table from Marketo, and there's a customer who wants to pay, but because of payment terms, they get pushed out. And then over time, at Angle Point, we grew our account with Click Dimensions, but because we had spent so much time and focus building out Click Dimensions into our automations and into our systems processes. And, we were with them for years that it didn't make sense down the road when we could afford that annual contract to move. Like it was too painful. And so when you look at the customer lifetime value of what Marketo walked away from, like it's immense, right? It's a lot
huge.
of money because of payment terms. And now I'm having this experience at Angle Point, and my brother Dan, who is the CEO of Solo, it's a sales proposal tool for the solar industry. So Dan is having the same experience with Domo and a similar experience that I had with Qualtrics. And so we got together and we're talking about this.
This is a problem.
This is a problem.
Maybe we need to fix this problem.
Yeah, maybe we need to fix this. So we started looking into it more and realized like this is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Like the SaaS world, there's a lot of talk about sales enablement and buyer enablement, but when it comes to payment terms, it's like, all right, guys, ready to pay? And then they force you to pay their way, right? Whatever their terms are.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that can be, near crippling especially for growing companies. And then what that does is that closes down a certain segment for the SaaS seller, right? Where their total addressable market shrinks because of payment terms.
Yeah.
And so we're like, hey, like let's find a way to solve this and to provide monthly payments to anyone who wants it, to everybody. Right. And that's our ethos and our belief at Parlay, and kind of where Parlay began and kind of the origins is let's put the buying power back into the hands of the customer. Let's give them the choice to pay however the heck that they want for the software that they want to purchase. And it's a much better way to start a relationship with a software company when they say, hey, yeah, you choose if you want to pay monthly or pay annual. It doesn't matter to us. Rather than saying, oh, like, sorry,
50
guys,
grand.
50
right now.
grand. Like, oh, like that's, you got to do it this way or we're not going to work together. And so that's what we do right now at Parlay is we've built a process and an offering to allow the seller to maintain the annual contract and for the buyer to get monthly payments. And what we didn't anticipate, which I freaking love, like I enjoy this part of our business so much,
Yeah.
is that growing companies, especially those who are more cash flow sensitive and don't want to throw down 50 grand on one piece of software, which, mind you, you're going to have a ton of different software contracts. And so if you've got these significant renewals every year of, large price, you have to really plan your finances well, because when you look at what those your software, your tech stack, what the payments look like, you're going to have like this massive payment, and then you have nothing the next month, and the next month, then you got another one. And so like
you're just up and down.
Yeah.
You could stack 2 in 1 month, and then all of a sudden you've got a payroll and everything hits the fan.
It's heavy. And so what we found is that a lot of these growing companies, especially SaaS sellers or software providers, is that they're using this to kind of forward flow or bring forward capital and kind of use us to get access to money in the bank, they're already offering monthly contracts. But then they turn those over to us. We pay them out annually. And now, because they've got the money, in the bank up front, their buyer is now paying us monthly, but they have a lot more power. They've got operating, OpEx. And so they can grow faster, and they can invest those funds however, they see fit to grow faster without any debt, without dilution. And it just helps them, to grow faster.
So this was started from family? Like you and your brother?
Yeah. My brother was really the person who kind of made that click and realized like there's a business here. And then I was still working at Angle Point. We had been talking about it, and with that background in software management, asset management, I had built a lot of contacts and experience in that space. And so my brothers pretty much said, hey, like I want you to come over and build this with me.
So cool.
And I, at the time, I was like, man, like I can't go right now because I've got some really cool projects happening at Angle Point, and I want to, make sure that my team there is, well taken care of before I leave. But he pretty much said, hey, like I want to do this right now. And so he started the company, and I jumped in with him. And so since then, it's been about a year now. That we've been working on Parlay, and probably 6 months or so out of stealth, if you will. And it's been just a wild ride.
Are you guys bootstrapped, or you're all bootstrapped?
Bootstrapped.
That is so cool. Yeah. Bootstrapped family business, really, that is solving a massive problem. Like from my perspective, it looks like, oh, you've got investors knocking on your door. You guys are getting all this cash pumped into you, and it's really cool to hear that you've done it bootstrapped and through family. Like that's really exciting.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dan has some contracts right now where he can't actually work on Parlay full time. It's just like in his personal time where he can work on it. Yeah. But nevertheless, it's been awesome working with him and the other founders that have joined us as well.
That's cool.
But yeah, we're growing, and there's a lot of really exciting opportunities right now for Parlay. But as sad as it is to say, in the economy we find ourselves right now, and with especially cash being king.
Nobody wants to freaking drop 50 grand on a contract right now.
So the economy is actually, it's helping us out.
Yeah.
But we're a genuine win-win there. And I find these to be hard, kind of somewhat rare and hard to find, is where there's a true win-win situation. So for us, we help the buyer get access to the software that they want with more flexible payments. The seller gets access to customers that they typically wouldn't get access to. But on the other end of the SaaS spectrum is you have these smaller companies or growing companies who get more capital up front. And so they're not having to go out and, raise more money or take on debt, because we're going directly to the buyer. And in the sense that the buyer is the one who's paying us rather than any debt being incurred from the seller.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you guys are solving a really, really cool problem for sure.
How do you make sure that you have all this capital like stored so that you can send it back and forth? You're pretty much a bank, right? Like how does that work?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, we've been doing that with our own funds right now. We're coming up with other solutions to the point where as we scale and grow, we're going to need to, get beyond
Creative
our
financing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple options right now, and we're working on developing and kind of determining what is going to be the best route for us.
Okay.
But we won't be.
You'll hit that road when you cross it.
Yeah, but we're not going to be the bank, ourselves for too much longer.
And do you charge? How does Parlay make money?
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways. It's always coming from the buyer. We did some pretty significant research looking across, thousands of different software companies and looking at what their average discount is or premium, depending on how you look at it. So most SaaS companies who are offering monthly and annual, they will have a discount if you move from monthly to annual.
Yeah.
And so across all of these SaaS companies, we found that the average is between 18 to 22%. We've seen as high as around 65%, and of course, low as 0. But that spectrum's pretty wide.
Yeah.
But the average 18 to 22%. So that we kind of fall right in the middle at 20%. So if you right now, Apollo.io, for example, if you want to use Apollo and if you move from monthly to annual, they're going to give you a 20% discount. ClickUp is a 40% discount. And so with those discounts, we take that same approach where if there's an annual contract and you want to make it a monthly contract, there's going to be a 20% premium.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take a 20% on that. And again, that's paid by the buyer.
Yeah.
And so there's no coming out of pocket for the seller, right?
Okay.
Now, on the other side of this, with those companies that are already doing monthly and annually, but want to have that monthly or that annual contract all up front for themselves rather than, recognizing revenue each month. So there's a couple of options. They can pass on cost to the buyer and, increase the cost of the software, which that's tough to do on the buyer.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes the seller will say, hey, it is more valuable for us to have this contract, the value of this annual contract all at once. So we'll eat the costs, we'll discount our software, and kind of eat into the revenue so that we can have it now.
Yeah.
So sometimes they pass it on. Sometimes they, take it, on their own, or sometimes they'll do like a hybrid approach where they'll pass some on and eat some themselves.
Okay. With Parlay, then, say we pay for like a Monday.com, they offer monthly, but say they only offered annual, 20% off for annual, but we can't afford it, so we go to Parlay. Parlay gives us a 20% premium. We pay monthly, but then do you get the 20% off from Monday.com by paying them in full and make 20% both ways, so 40%? Is that something that you guys get?
No. So let's say that the contract is $1,000 with Monday.com. That would be the annual contract.
Yeah.
Then there's the our 20%. So what you would be paying would be $1,200. Right?
Sure.
You're going to be paying $1,200 for the year. That savings that's coming from that 20%, that's our earning, but we're not taking it from like Monday's not giving us you know, 20% on our side, and then we're charging you to 20%.
Oh, okay.
It's just that
Just the
premium
one.
from what.
Yeah. I was like, that'd be interesting because you technically are paying the annual, so you should get the annual price, and then, but so you are getting them the annual price and marketing up 20%. Now
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mentioned ClickUp, right? And ClickUp with a 40% savings, with us taking a 20%, not only are you getting the convenience of monthly payments, but you're still getting a 20% discount on your software. So it's almost like a financially irresponsible not to work with Parlay if you're a ClickUp user.
That's a great point. Wow. Well, we need to evaluate. We were literally just looking at our tech stack. We only do monthly tech stacks because I run our finances, and I personally hate when I see like big expense months, because obviously when you're looking at a potential exit one day, you want to have a clean expense sheet every month and a clean net income. So, but we get offered to pay annual on majority of our expensive softwares that are $1,100 or $1,200 a month. So I'm interested to see how that would work.
Yeah, and oftentimes you can negotiate with them, and you can say, hey, I know that you're offering like a 15% discount if we move to annual. We'll do that if you move it to 20%. And then you come to us, and then we pay it out, right? And then you pay us monthly, but then it just becomes a wash.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's the same cost, but now you get, you know, you're getting monthly, and anyway. And that's particularly important for situations where the software provider only does
annual.
Well,
yeah. I think we do have a few that are larger than 20% discounts for annual, though. So we'll have to look at them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely an interesting thing that we need to look at.
Well, when you look at what we can do for the buyers, is we can take the roller coaster kind of payment schedules, and we can
Just
flatten it.
Yeah.
Make it clean, predictable, same cost every month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
which is
nice.
huge. And I mean, through everything that you've been through, you've done some additional, like, I know you've got paid for it, I assume, but it's like almost on the outside seems volunteer. I mean, working at Ensign College at the SBC as an adjunct, not a lot of people decide to have a full-time job and teach at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you've also, you know, you're a lot of involvement with Silicon Slopes. So like, talk about that. How does one go about doing something like that, and why did you choose to do it?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. I'm not teaching right now. I mean, I'm going to school.
Yeah.
Kind of on hiatus. I loved teaching. I really enjoyed it. But for me, it was kind of a way to give back, kind of to the world and to the marketing industry community. My time at Ensign College, I really enjoyed it, but adjunct professors and who may hear this podcast, they know that adjunct teaching doesn't pay well.
Yeah, no,
So it wasn't for the money, because to be honest, the opportunity cost and the time that it took, you know, to drive up to campus, to teach, to drive back, and to grade papers, and to spend time with students, you know, after class hours, like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so I did it for a few years, and then especially building a business and going to school, I just like
it's too much.
Yeah. So there might be some more of that in the future for me. But I just love the teaching experience. I have a lot of fun spending time with students, and especially my favorite people to teach are those who are curious and who really have a genuine desire to learn and to grow and develop. By far my favorite people to teach.
Yeah, I loved. I mean, I personally, I feel like I owe LDSBC, Ensign College. That's where I really put me on the path to where I, you know, got started. And it was for professors like you that like took time out of their insanely busy day to like come and teach and give students real life experience very quickly, which you don't get in a normal university where you've got a professor that maybe has actually worked in that profession,
Maybe 40,
So.
50 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. And they've just done theory, they've
Yeah.
literally done theory and haven't practiced. So I think it's if you have the chance to, teach, or if you have the chance to give back, do it. Cause you can influence people.
Like you wouldn't believe how, cause one of the classes I taught was, web management, and we taught kids how to build websites from scratch, and then how to build in WordPress.
Yep.
And I had students who, they're 60 years old, and they barely even know how to work a computer.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching them how to build a website.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the class, they're like, "I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like, this is so hard." And then at the end, they're like, "I can't believe I did that."
Yeah.
So, like,
it's super rewarding, I'm
it's
sure.
so rewarding.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. I know. When were you at LDSBC and in college now?
Oh, God, I'd have to look at my LinkedIn profile. I'm trying to remember. It was probably 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. Or something.
Right.
So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned Silicon Slopes, and one of the main reasons I jumped into Silicon Slopes and kind of the story behind that was when I was first getting into marketing in the Fieldstone times, the Fieldstone days. I needed mentorship, needed guidance. And there were some really cool marketing meetups happening.
Yeah.
It wasn't Silicon Slopes, but it was, a lot of the same people who are now involved. Yeah. Kind of the same Utah marketing community who were really helpful to me. They spent time with me, mentored me, and without any expectation of anything in return. And the time and support and just the learning and education I received from going to events and lunch and learns was so valuable to me. And so this was right near the tail end of COVID, when people started kind of coming back in. I say the tail end like it's completely over, but where people started returning back to work and to start doing events and things. And the marketing chapter was kind of stagnant. Nothing was really happening. So I reached out to Garrett at Silicon Slopes, and I asked if I could jump in and get involved and help kind of bring it back. And he was really cool, welcomed me in, and I started organizing events. At that time, we were about 200 chapter members, which I'm pretty pumped. You guys are the first one I've told, but we just crossed 1,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that. But we're now our chapter is 1,004 marketers, and the starting those events right near as people are coming back, it was so refreshing. To be with people again and to be learning from each other again. And you could just see the hunger for it as people came in, especially for that first event we did. But ever since, it's just another way for me now that I'm not teaching. It doesn't take as much time. And so now, it's my way of giving back and, supporting, kind of serving the community. And it's a great way for me to meet new people and get connected. And so I really enjoy that aspect. But I think that there's something really special and unique in Utah, and with this sense of community and the Silicon Slopes world here in Utah. And it's I think it's unlike most other business communities and ecosystems throughout the world. It's really cool to see how people just band together and support each other and serve one another. And I've really enjoyed being able to see that and help facilitate the connection, helping people, find jobs and meet new people and find business partners. And so it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think Utah definitely has a unique, there's just something different here. And whether that's, attached to the religious nature of how, involved things get in Utah or not, like I do feel like there's a difference here versus other places.
It's a really competitive culture of
Yeah.
like, we want to all succeed. And there's also a really strong sales culture here too, that I think helps companies thrive. But Silicon Slopes has always been just incredible at what it does. Even though, you have Silicon Valley, we've got the slopes.
Yeah. It's way better here.
Yeah, it's funny. I just got back from SaaSter,
Yeah.
one of the biggest events in the SaaS industry, and Utah had a huge showing.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
It was so cool because we all got together for a picture, and kind of
I saw that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, the Silicon Slopes does Silicon Valley, and so many different times at different booths, different people I was talking to.
You're also from Utah?
Yeah, they're like, and no joke, this is the quote, is there are so many people here from Utah.
Yeah.
And I just heard that from so many different people, and I was just like, I love that.
I'm proud. Like
proud.
we're doing our job.
Yeah.
We're making a name
Well,
for
it's a
ourselves.
very innovative place too, right? Like I feel like people in Utah, for some reason, there's something that helps us all be more willing to take a little bit of risk and try something. Maybe it comes from the fact that people feel like they're born with a lot of purpose,
Yeah.
and that purpose is what drives forward their life. So
Yeah.
when you feel like you're born with innate purpose, then you're going to work a lot harder to like create more purpose in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And I just think the willing to support one another, to serve each other.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's
quite
built,
high here.
Yeah, it's high, and it's built into our culture. And so when you see so much of that, you had said that like we all kind of grow and win together.
Yeah. There's not many places in the world where you get to network every week with your 500 neighbors, Utah, we all know the people around us. We all are able to go and support the people around us. We get to know them on a personal level, where in other places you might live in a cul-de-sac and know one person. So there's that advantage too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that shared community values
Go Utah.
are huge. Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Pete, I think to wrap up, we always like to ask like a couple of more or less like helpful questions. And you've had an amazing journey. You've worked in-house, you've run your own business, you've been an entrepreneur, you've been an entrepreneur, right? So like in your advice to someone who is, either wanting to get into marketing or wanting to just, more or less hone their skills or learn new skills, what would be your top advice for someone like that?
Yeah, especially those who are trying to break into marketing, regardless if you're new, say newly graduated, coming out of school, or if you're trying to pivot in your career, is to kind of choose a route or specialty, an expertise. Because most companies, especially hiring for entry level, they want someone to perform a specific task, a specific job, right? They're not usually going to be hiring for, and this does happen, but they're not usually going to be hiring just for a generalist, right? They want somebody, and especially if you want to go into a larger company, they're going to want to hire someone to do one specific job, right? Your email marketing, your social marketing, your video, content creation, whatever it is. Like choose something that you can be the best at, right? Just have like a real superpower and be really talented at that thing. And then as you grow that particular expertise, then expand. Like grow into the other areas of marketing. If you're really focused in on, let's say, copywriting, and you're a writer, then start jumping into the creative side of video production, or maybe look into search engine optimization, SEO and website building, and start becoming much more versatile. And so in short, like start focused, and then grow and expand to be more of a generalist. I think that's one of the key things that I recommend and suggest to people trying to break into marketing or to start, is just to focus in hard on a specific skill.
Love that. And where can people find you if they want to, talk to Pete? Where are they going to find you?
Yeah, pickleball courts.
Okay. Pickleball courts in Alpine.
Yeah. Yeah, just LinkedIn is the best place to find me. You can hit me in the DMs. I try to respond to everybody. Sometimes it's a little bit slow. They add up.
Yeah, LinkedIn DMs, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Gotta filter through.
Thanks
this.
for
Good
responding.
day.
Thanks for responding to mine.
Yeah.
And then last questions, because we didn't ever get into this, is soccer or pickleball? Which one's the better sport?
Oh, soccer for sure.
Soccer, yeah, okay. Scared me.
I love pickleball. I really enjoy it, but
It's fun to play.
yeah.
Yeah.
But soccer will always be my love.
And who's your team?
The thing is,
Now that Messi's in the United States.
well, so I'm a big fan of Christian Pulisic, and he just moved to AC Milan. So I was on the Chelsea train, and I know this is a little bandwagon, but
Follow the player, not
That's
the team.
okay. Yeah.
following the player.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
And he's playing lights out.
yeah,
Playing great.
but I was just in Vegas watching Barcelona play AC Milan, and man, it was incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you saw them play like a friendly?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like they were doing a U.S. tour.
Yeah.
But
Summers. I was literally in London this summer, and I'm like, I'm here the 1 month that Chelsea's
Everyone's
not
gone.
here.
Everyone
so
went everywhere else. Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, I was in London and went to watch a game. I was there not actually cheering for Chelsea because I would have been murdered. It was at Watford.
Okay, yeah. So you're not
Yeah, it was Watford versus Chelsea.
silent fan.
A silent fan. But man, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad you like the real best sport on the planet. And it's been great having you on, Pete.
Yeah. Thank you for your insights.
Reach out to him on LinkedIn if you're looking for any marketing advice. He's been a teacher, works with Silicon Slopes, and I'm sure Pete's going to be more than willing to respond to you as long as you're nice.
as long as you're not mean.
Happy to help however I can. Thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on today, Pete. Appreciate it.